Hi everyone, my name is Angelia and I'm the Sales and Support Lead for Appraiser Genie, and I will be the host of the webinar today. I will be demonstrating Genie with Total Software, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Now, I will mute everyone during the webinar just to stay on task, but of course if you guys have any questions as we wrap it up towards the end or as we progress through the demo, if you have any questions, just send a message in chat and I'll be happy to answer anything I can. Alright, so what you guys should see on my screen is a PowerPoint Appraiser Genie MLS setup. There is one requirement before you can immediately use Appraiser Genie, and as you'll see, that is explained here. Basically what you're required to do when you use Appraiser Genie is you still need to log into your MLS. You're going to create a neighborhood search. Appraiser Genie was designed to analyze the full neighborhood. Thus, when you log into your MLS, you're simply defining the neighborhood boundaries, meaning north, south, east, west, basically what your form requires. We will fill in the one-unit housing and trends, so the high-low pre-dom will fill that in for you guys based on that search you save from your MLS. Now, you'll further narrow that down once you're inside the Genie, and that's how we provide you the true comp search in your 1004MC. So if it's kind of weird when we tell you to just search by your neighborhood boundaries, that's why, because you get a 2-in-1 search when you use Appraiser Genie. Now, we are compatible with all MLSs as long as yours gives you an option to download or export, one or the other. When you log in and create your search, once you go to the results, you should see an export button or a download option, one of the two. And as long as your MLS provides those features, then your MLS is compatible with Genie. Now, it is good to note here that we have set up over 300 MLSs across the nation. So most likely the MLS you use, we've already set up. Now, we do have to create a custom export under each individual appraiser's login. So even if your MLS has already been set up, we still create a template under your login so you can actually access it yourself. If this hasn't been done, you can email mls@appraisergenie.com for more information, and we don't charge you guys anything for this setup, or you can ask us to send you the guide and you can set it up yourself, whichever you prefer. As stated, there's no cost, and there are a few MLSs there's no requirement, no template needed. You can just simply download the searches and then save it to your computer as it is. Some of those include HAR, which is the Houston area. You have RealTrax, which I think is Tennessee. North Star, can't remember where that's located, and there's a few others. So if you guys use one of these MLSs listed down here, you actually can use the Genie immediately. Just contact us and we'll help you get started. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and what I'm going to do now is pull up Total. I already have a report ready that I want to use for the webinar today. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to where that is. Okay, I have one right here. Now I have a couple of monitors, so you're going to see me go back and forth between the two. Alright, so everything that's already in the report is basically what's required to be filled out when you use Genie. You definitely can have a lot more information in here than I do, but this is just bare bones telling you what you need to have before you start Genie. So what you'll see across the top, of course, is my address, city, state, zip, county. I can go down. I left all of this blank. We will provide this information as stated earlier, the one-unit housing trends and the one-unit housing price and age. Now, we don't fill out the present land use and we don't fill out the neighborhood characteristics. Those are something you guys will complete on your own. We obviously can't describe the neighborhood boundaries. You'll put what you typically do there as well as the description. So when I say that we analyze the full neighborhood, we analyze the full neighborhood to provide the one-unit housing trends here and then the high-low pre-dom. Now, some of this information I have filled out, which is general information based on the subject. Of course, I have one selected as units, stories, detached, existing, design, year built, effective age. This property is pretty much brand new. It was completely remodeled, floor, roof, appliances, everything you could pretty much think of was remodeled on this house, so it's effectively around 2 years old. Of course, I put the year billed in here. And I have this subject section filled out on page 2 of the report. So this is the general information you'll want completed. Try to make this as accurate as possible because we do send this information to buildingcosts.net and they do return the total replacement cost based on this property, the subject. Alright, so I have all this filled out, and as stated, it is 56 years old, but it's been completely gutted and remodeled, so I assigned a Q2 and a C2 for that. Alright, so this is generally just the information you'll want to have filled in. You can have a sketch completed if needed. Like I said, you can have more than this here, but this is just a general idea of what you need. Now, one other thing you'll want to do before you actually start Genie is we want to log into the MLS and create the search I was referencing earlier. So I've already done that. I didn't want to show anybody's MLS login information during the webinar, so if you need help with this later specific to your MLS, give us a call. We'll show you how to do it. But generally, what you'll do is log into your MLS. We use Intrace, which is North Texas, so I'm sure there's appraisers from Texas in the room. If you use Intrace, very easy. It's a matrix-based MLS. You should see matrix somewhere. It's blue. Generally, they all look the same. But all I did is I logged into my MLS, I grabbed my active solds pendings, I went back at least 1 year, and I did a 2-mile radius based on this subject here. And the only other thing I did was I narrowed it to single family. So that is my neighborhood boundaries. I didn't do anything other than what I just described to you, and I saved it to my computer. So now I'm going to show you where that file is located. Now, we do support Excel if it's a CSV file, TSV, whatever format your MLS downloads to, that's generally supported. So normally, it'll just download to a CSV, which you can open Excel if you want to look at it. So what I did is I just downloaded the file to my computer. I went to where it was located, which is right here. All I did was name it the subject address so I can find it easier, because later on I'm going to put this search into the Genie for all my support. So what you see right here is a sample. It's my search I created for this subject. You're going to notice there's field names in a certain order. Go make those bigger. And this is the template that I had advised you guys we needed to create. A template, all it means is there are certain fields from your MLS in a certain order Genie needs them in. We always start with status, followed by zip code, etc. And when I clicked on export, I had a little drop-down box, and all I did was change that to Appraiser Genie, which puts in our format, and that's what you're looking at right here. If this is lost on you, don't worry. It is very different depending on the MLS you use, but we're very, very familiar with each one. So if you're not sure how to export from the MLS and save it to your computer, just give us a call and we'll take care of it for you. Just takes a couple of tries. Alright, so once I've already logged into my MLS, saved my search here, which is my neighborhood search, I'm good to go. I'm just going to go ahead and minimize that. Once I've done those 2 steps, we're ready to go ahead and start Genie. So in total, the right-hand side of total, you'll have a dashboard button. If you click on dashboard, your little dashboard will populate. And if you've already installed Appraiser Genie, you see it down here. You'll see our icon and a launch option. If you have not installed Genie yet, I will show you how to do that. So if you're a brand new user, you'll go to your dashboard, and we're going to go to launch under the total store. So when we click on launch, you'll have a little browser window open up, and here's the total store. And if we scroll down, we're going to see Appraiser Genie. We're going to click on this. And there's a couple different options. You can pay $5 per report, $45 for a 10-pack. If you need up to 85 reports a month per appraiser, keep in mind it's $100. But of course, if you're a brand new user, definitely take advantage of the 10 uses. So what you would want to do is, if you need to sign up for the 10, click on that. Total's asking you to sign in with whatever your a la mode info is, and you click on sign in. I'm not going to do that. And then you'll have a little pop-up box. It's just going to tell you thank you for downloading it. So you just close that out, and all you'll do is go back to your total dashboard, close it, relaunch it, and now you'll see what I see. only it won't say launch, it'll say download. So all you do is click on download, follow the installation, come back, close dashboard one more time, relaunch it, and you'll be at the point I am. So now that we're ready, we're going to go ahead and click launch. Of course, there's an FAQ page if you need that in the meantime. Once we click launch, you're going to have a little pop-up. We're going to choose a currently open report. Make sure you have the correct one open if you do have more than one, and click OK. Alright, so Appraiser Genie is completely cloud-based. So what will happen is Genie's going to open with whatever you have set as your default browser on your computer. We do not support Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, either newer or older. We don't support them. The problem with Internet Explorer is they have a lot of older code. They don't support new features, so we just don't support it. So as you'll see right here, let me make this bigger. At the bottom of my screen, Genie opens with Chrome, and that's the browser we support most. That's our preferred, but you can also use Firefox if you want to. Okay, so when you launch Genie, you'll see this page every single time you launch it until you save it, your email and password. And when you're a brand new user, you're not going to have an email and password. You're going to go down here and click on registration. You're going to create the email and password and save it, and then once you come back, you're going to see the same page. And all you're going to do now is enter your email and password you just created. If I could type. Okay, so this is my email and password. I've used Genie quite a while, so I didn't have to create a new one. I do want to click Remember Me, so I don't have to type this in over and over, and I'm going to click Submit. Now, if Genie looks like it's not thinking, just remember this little circle in the top of the browser, left-hand corner where I'm hovering. If there's a little circle here, Genie is thinking, so don't click on anything, just let it sit there. Alright, so we're inside Genie. This is our main page, and the way you know where you are in Genie is you're going to have a blue tab indicated at the top, which is your input tab here. You don't actually start on this tab the very first time you use Genie. You're taken to your defaults page, so we're going to start as if we're brand new. You have a forward arrow and a backward arrow. We use these arrows to tab over and move around. So we're going to click this back arrow all the way over. Keep going until you cannot anymore. And you'll see this in tab here labeled defaults. We want to click on that. Once again, it looks like Genie's loading. Alright, and this is what you guys will see initially the very first time. So you'll naturally arrive at this page. You'll have a little pop-up box. It's going to tell you to agree to the terms of service. So all you do is scroll down, enter your initials, click accept, and you'll be where I am. So what you want to do is you want to set up these defaults. They do affect every report, but you can always come back to this tab, just like I did before, and change anything you need to. What you're going to, of course, want to do is make sure this is set to the correct software, which we have a la mode, which is total, so that's correct. Here you have concessions, age variance, site size variance. These are all defaults you can set up for Appraiser Genie. And these little blue question marks, they provide further information. So if you click on the blue question mark, Genie wants you to enter the maximum percentage of concessions that's customary for your area. Anything over this percentage you place here will automatically be adjusted for. So concessions completely depend on where you are and if your MLS reports concessions. If they don't, then you might as well leave this 0, meaning adjust for all concessions reported, because if they don't report any, you're not going to have a concession adjustment anyway. If they do, which Intrace does, you can put a percentage here. For us, 3% is the maximum customary percentage, so I put a 3 here. Let's say you don't normally adjust for anything under 6%, you can put a 6 there, or whatever you want there. If you want to adjust for all concessions that are reported, any percentage, you can put a 0 there. I'm going to go with 3. Age variance works similar. Whatever number you indicate here, Genie will not give you an age adjustment for. So for example, I have a 5 here. If my comps are 5 years newer or older than my subject, I will not have an age adjustment, but anything over the 5-year difference I will. If you want to adjust for every single age year difference, You can put a 0 there or put what's typical for you. Site size variance, this is also a percentage. 30%, that's just basically telling Genie I don't want a site adjustment for my comps to subject if they're within 30% site size. Anything over 30% site size difference subject to comp we'll adjust for. Anything within the 30% we will not. Subject previous sales year prior, comp previous sales years prior. Typically I see these left as they are. I think FHA was once upon a time 3 years. They may have changed to 1 recently, what I've heard, not sure. But if you ever need to change these two numbers, you can, or leave them as they are. Minimum square foot to adjust. Whatever number I indicate here, Genie will not adjust for as far as GLA. So I don't typically adjust for the first 100 square feet difference. For the first 100 square feet, excuse me. Anything over the 100 square feet I want an adjustment for. So that's why I put 100 here. You could put a 50. You can leave it blank. We'll adjust for all GLA difference. It's up to you. Adjustment rounding. Now this is up to you. You can decide how precise, so to speak, you want the adjustments for Genie. We do provide you adjustments for allocation, extraction, matched pairs, regression. And when we give you an adjustment, do you want us to round up to the next 100, 500, or $1,000? If you want it more precise, of course, you'll go with 100. It's up to you. Comp export sort order. You can set a default here. How do you want the comps exported into the report? Do you want them ordered by close date, adjusted sales price, contract date, distance from subject? Whatever you want for the report is what you'll set here. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on close date, which I think goes recent to older. The next options, effective age, reconciled value, calculated adjustments, these are optional. These checkboxes here just allow you to decide whether you want Genie to fill this information in for you in the report or if you want to provide this on your own later. Effective age is for the subject. If you want us to provide a subject effective age adjustment, leave it checked. If not, you can deselect it. Reconciled value, same thing. Do you want us to provide this information for you? If yes, leave it selected. If not, change it to no. Calculated adjustments, these are just optional adjustments we can put in the report for you. You'll have a PDF labeled allocation, and we will fully break down the adjustment as far as what you should adjust for fence, wood deck, granite. If some of these don't apply in your area or you don't make these adjustments, you just deselect them. Or you can do what I do and leave them all selected. Okay, this percentage here, National Association of Home Builders, this percentage is updated for you annually, so you don't have to do anything with it. And that percentage is contributed to the GLA less any incidentals such as driveway, etc. This will be rounded up to 62%, and that is what's contributed to GLA out of the total replacement cost. Now if you want more information, you can right-click and go to Open Link in New Tab, and you will be taken to their website. And depending on how frequently they update this information is when this table is updated for you, and it is by builders. So this information is a 2015 construction cost survey, and I don't know how frequently they update it, but if nothing's changed, they generally just leave the table here. So I'm going to close that. MLS acronym. Now, as stated earlier, one requirement with the Genie is we do have to set up a custom export for your MLS, and all you do is put the acronym of that MLS here. Now we do have to have a specific MLS because all the mapping is different MLS to MLS. So for example, in box 1 I have ABOR, which is Austin, Texas Board of Realtors. In Trace, North Texas, and then CRAR is just a Cedar Rapids. So you'll just list your own MLS acronym here. I test with these, that's why I have a couple different ones, but you can list up to 8 if you personally use more than one MLS. So I'm going to leave that alone. Verification source, whatever you have set in these boxes here, that's what's going to transfer back to your total report. So for example, if we go to page 2, verification source, let me go back to total, or excuse me, Genie. I have MLS assessor and listing office. So what I'm going to see here when I export back to total is it's going to say MLS assessor, and if your MLS actually tells us the listing office name, it will list the listing office name here. So it's very literal. Whatever you put in that box is what's going to transfer back to the total report. You don't have to use something in this drop-down box. You can write your own. I've seen people put just whatever they want here, and that's what will transfer back to the report. Or you can leave what's default, which normally we put MLS, assessor, because we do pull from both of those. And then down here in box 2, you can put doc number, list price, whatever you want. I'm just going to go with list price. Now there's 3 boxes here. I normally leave this suffix field blank because at some point you're going to have, you won't have very much room left in the report, so to cut it off, I just recommend using the top 2. Rights, location, view. Whatever you see in these boxes here, that's what's going to transfer to the report. This is not returned to us from public records. Most of the time MLS does not give us any of this. I'm sure you know, functional utility, energy efficiency. If they don't, we wanted to set up something here so it will default. That's what will go into the report. Now there are drop-down boxes. For example, energy efficiency. You can change it to one of these, or if you don't use any of those, you can put your own. Like I just typed in standard, and under energy efficiency for all of my comps, it's going to say standard here. Or sorry. Same thing with functional utility. I have DP installation, so when I get back to the report, under functional utility, you'll have DP installation. Okay, now porch and patio, I left this blank. There used to be an abbreviation here by default, which I'll put that back in there for you. That means covered porch, covered patio, but honestly most MLSs don't clarify if it's a covered porch, uncovered porch, whatever it is. So if you leave this here, whether or not the comp has the covered porch or patio, it's going to say this straight across. So it's up to you. If you'd rather not deal with it and just leave this field blank here and correct it later once you're in the report, you can. Or let's say most of the properties in your area, they actually have a covered porch and a patio. If you want to write that out, that's fine. That's how it will transfer to the report. Up to you. Hey, you have blank row 1, blank row 2, blank row 3. These are going to refer to the 3 blanks in the bottom of the report. Here's blank row 1, blank row 2, blank row 3. And you're going to notice there's up to 3 rows in each blank. So that's 1A, 1B, 1C. All that means is, let's say for row 1 you want fireplace there, maybe you want sold date, maybe you want sales to listing. If you leave it like this, then for the top blank row, you're going to have fireplace in there, sold to listing ratio, all of that will be in one field here. And I don't usually recommend that because as stated, it will cut off at some point. So normally what I do is I just go with one option in each blank row and go from there. Now if you typically do make a fireplace adjustment, I recommend you leave this in blank row 1 because that's by default where our adjustments go for fireplace. So for example, fireplace can be right here. And when Genie makes an adjustment, we're going to put the fireplace account straight across in this top row. And if there's an adjustment to be made, it will always default in this top row here. So why not have it line up neatly? Same thing with pool. Pool, we always default to blank row 3. So if you want pool information, put your subject pool here. And then your comp pools across the page, and any defaults will be there. So you'll see I have pool in blank row 3A, and blank row 2 I leave it alone because there are other options, but it just varies too much, and sometimes I don't know what to put there at that time. So you can leave blank row 2 empty, and when we export all this back to the report, this will just remain empty here. Okay, we have public record verification. Now this area, when you choose your comps for the report, we're going to of course verify the comp site, age, stories, etc. You can set a default here as far as which source you want Genie to use by default. When we verify the site information, if you want us to use public, you can choose public or MLS or peer. Our peer completely depends on how many appraisers use the Genie in your area. There are quite a few, honestly, for Intrace, so maybe if you use Intrace you can rely on this peer database. But if you're in a very small rural area and you're just not sure how many people use the Genie, I wouldn't choose peer. I would go with MLS Public, or if you're not sure what to use, leave it on Ask Me, and later on you'll get a little pop-up box and we'll show you what each one reported if there's a discrepancy. So you guys can see how that's demonstrated, I'm just going to leave everything on Ask Me. Column order. When you're choosing the comps for the report, you can decide how you want this information displayed. You're going to see a bunch of column headers here to the left, and generally you can reorder this. So when you're looking through the comps, as you see, there's a lot of information here. Why not just put this in the order you want this information displayed? I immediately want to see site, followed by the comp's age, followed by GLA, maybe year built, sales price. Whatever ordering you want, you can just click on it, click the up and down arrow, and it just moves it back and forth depending on where you want it placed in there. Yes, just to answer somebody's question, if you leave blank row 2, meaning this right here, if you leave this empty and you already have something in the report, will it stay there? That is correct. We won't do anything with this field here. Alright, so that's the bottom of the page. What we're going to do now, since I've reached all the way down, we're going to scroll back towards the top. And since I made some changes, or anytime you make changes, you're going to want to click on the Save button in the left-hand corner. And once again, looks like Genie's processing that, so we'll wait for 1 second. Alright, now there are a few other tabs as you notice here. There's abbreviations, comments, definitions, graphs, narrator. I'm not going to go over. We literally added this today, probably about 15 minutes before we got on the demo, and I don't know exactly what that is. So if I can understand what that is, I'll go through that in 1 second. Abbreviations, all this is a list of abbreviations, and the abbreviations you see here, that's what's going to be transferred back to the report if it applies. So for example, if one of the comps has heat geotherm, we're going to put GEO to identify that. If the comp has forced warm air, you're going to see FWA, and so on. FPL fireplace, pools for pool. Now you don't have to use these abbreviations. Let's say for Cool Central you don't want CAC, maybe you want something like this. Whatever you want, you can set that there, and that's what we'll export back into the report. Comments is a list of comments that the Genie will fill out for you in the report. This top one here, subject previous sales year, or excuse me, subject previous sales comment, comp previous sales comment, cost approach site comment, 1004MC concession comment, not available, REOs. There's a lot of comments here, data source. All of these will go into the report for you. By no means do you have to use them. They're completely up to you. For example, this one here is a concession comment. This will be in the concession field under the 1004. Anything in brackets here is data we're pulling for you. So obviously we're going to pull the subject MLS, the quantity, concessions pre-dom, list quantity, etc. Now the cool thing is if you want to add to this or erase it completely and write your own, there's a little menu that says Quick Pick. If you hover over it, let's say you want to add on to this concession comment, you can hover over 1004, go to whatever you're interested in. Maybe you want to pull the neighborhood sales and pre-dom. If you click on that, it ends up right here at the end of the sentence. So now we're going to pull the neighborhood sales pre-dom. And of course you'll want to enter this built around the sentence. So you would type in a search of the, go to your Quick Pick and click on the box that has this, and then just type out the rest of the sentence. But these are pretty powerful. You can make them as detailed as you could possibly want. They do take a little time to set up. We're not going to go through this in detail. This is just here for you if you want to do anything to this section. Otherwise what you see here will be your comments for the report. Definitions. This is a page of definitions. Any verbiage used in the Genie. Allocation land value. We pull the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, their actual definition, and this will be put in the work file if you ever need to add any of this verbiage into your report. Whatever you want to do with it, it will be in the work file for you or here. Okay, graphs. You can have up to 10 different graphs in the report. As you see, this is graph 1, graph 2, graph 3, and so forth. And if you do want graphs, you can click the drop down, choose either month, quarter, or year, and simply go below that and choose from the radio dial button which type of graph you want. So I have month, and that's going to be based off of the dollar per square foot. I went to year, and let's say I want that based off this percentage of concession contribution, and that's how you select graphs. So this is my first graph, my second graph, and it looks like I have quite a few here. These are optional. I've heard it both ways. I've heard where appraisers don't want the graphs, too much fluff, whatever the case is. If you want them, they're here. They do provide a lot of accurate information because we use the narrowed search. So your reduced search, only the most comparable properties will be in these graphs here. Narrator. Okay, so it looks like what narrator is it's just further comments, which is awesome. You can never have too many comments that we can help you fill out. So this is an appraiser independence comment. What you see here is just a statement that goes into the report, and once again, you can erase these, do whatever you want. The first time I've seen this as well. Bath adjust comments, if you want more verbiage here for a bath adjustment. What these look like is you want to actually fill them out yourself. Otherwise, these are just placeholders, so to speak. I think these are just examples of what you would put in there. Condition quality comments, looks like these are an example. This one looks pretty good. It has SPEDMA information as far as UAD, FAQs, and the number, so that one would probably be a good one to leave in there. Contract comments, you can do whatever you need there, but that's pretty cool. So we apparently added that today, and there's a lot in here. I know appraisers were asking about this, so it's good to see that we got that going for you. So take your time whenever you can. If you already use a Genie and you haven't seen this yet, definitely visit this, because this is pretty much going to fill out any comment in your report now. It's a lot of information. All right, so I'm going to just go back to the top. And lastly, password. If you need to change the Appraiser Genie password you make in the beginning, you just type the new one here, repeat it, of course, and click Save. Now, there is a video here. If you can't get a hold of us, or you don't feel comfortable walking through this on your own, or you simply need a refresher, you can click the little video button, and a little pop-up box will display, and it will just show you a video of pretty much what I did for this section alone. All right, so what we're going to do now, since we've gone through the entire default process, is we want to go ahead and start the report. So what we're going to do is you have that forward arrow, backward arrow. Very simply, we're going to click all the way over till we see input, and we're going to click on this tab here. And that's how you start the report. So once again, if you need to come back to default, just use this back arrow, go all the way over, change, save whatever you need to, and then arrow back towards the front, click on input here. Alright, so what you see towards the top here, you have your subject address. This is pulled from the report. And if you don't have the parcel or legal number, we will actually pull that and put that in here. And I will show you an example of that because I don't have it in the report here. So that'll be pulled and put in the report for you. Now the way you start the report is we want to go top down. Do not worry about this section right here. This does not apply until the very end. But if you do need a refresher video, click on this video, and it's going to walk you through whatever software, be it Total, ACI, Appraise It, Genie knows which one you use, and that will populate the correct video. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click this down arrow and enter the effective date of the report. This is completely hypothetical for me, so I'm going to go with today. Next, I want to select the form I'm using. The top ones are UAD. If you grab the down arrow, there are quite a few forms we support, and the ones below that are non-UAD. So we're going to go with the 1 to 4. Cost approach is yes or no. It depends on the lender. If cost approach is not required, change it to no or leave that on yes. To the right-hand side, you have REO addendum, quantitative REO addendum, listing addendum. These are optional as well. If they apply and you need them completed, just check them here or leave them alone. Okay, so this section here earlier when I told you guys we would further narrow that search down from the MLS and Genie, this is where I was referring to. You definitely want to use this section here. If you don't, then your neighborhood information for the 1-unit housing trends, it's going to carry every single one of those comps to the 1004. So you'll want to narrow this information out here to get your true comp search. So for example, I have 30 here, so I'm telling Genie I only want to return comps that are within 30% of my subject site size plus or minus. Anything outside of the 30%, that will stay in my neighborhood analysis, of course, but it will not return in my true comp search, and it won't be in the 1004, and I can't choose it from our report. So the whole point of this is to, narrow that search out to get your truest comps, which also obviously helps you decide which comps you want to use. 10, that's years. So I only want comps that are within 10 years of my subject's age, newer or older. 20, that's a percentage. I only want to return comps that are within 20% of my subject's GLA, plus or minus. And anything with a 0, I don't particularly care to narrow for, so I left it 0. So Genie's going to skip the parameters with the 0 and narrow down the ones that have a value in it. This, of course, is going to be changed many times over. It completely depends on the report at hand. One last thing to show you is if you do put an equal sign, then you're telling Genie, I only want to return comps that have the same exact number of stories as the subject. So equal sign means equal to my subject. Reconciliation weighting, this is a use path requirement. You're going to score 1 through 10, 10 being most similar. So as you see under sales comparison approach, I just assigned the full weighting being 10 to sales comparison. And I didn't want any weighting contribute to income or costs, so that's why those are blank. But you could divide it up if you wanted, just make sure it adds up to 10. Now income approach, that's if the property can be used as a rental. Rarely have I ever seen that used, but it works the same. If you can contribute any weighting to income approach, or all, you can put a 10 there. Oops. Okay. Highest and best use. Now this should be pretty straightforward. The top use is current, which is residential. Below is possible, also residential. And you'll have multifamily displayed by default, but if it's not applicable, click the blank space to get rid of it. Okay, the next section, land comp sales. Now these little blue question marks, if they explain it a little better than me, or you just want a little more information, you can click on a blue question mark, and it's going to tell you what this section's used for. This is the land comp sales, and you only ever use this if you have raw land sales that need to be reconciled. Otherwise, we will use allocation, extraction, and regression for your site value. So this is optional. You would enter it just like you would in the comp grid. You'd put your address, sales price, etc., assign weighting if needed, and we will contribute that or include it, so to speak, when we derive your land value. If not, leave it blank. Last section is square foot method. These little green boxes, you're able to edit or enter your own information, but normally most appraisers leave this completely alone because this is for Marshall and Swift, meaning if you subscribe to Marshall and Swift, you would manually transfer their information to these fields, or leave it alone and let buildingcost.net do this for you, which is free. So don't erase anything you already see here, just leave it alone if you want buildingcost.net to complete it for you. Okay, so once we scrolled all the way to the bottom and we reached the bottom, we need to go back towards the top now, and this is where we will mess around with this information here. So what Genie wants us to do now is we want to click on this browse button, and Genie's looking for an MLS file. So remember, we logged into our MLS, we saved that file on our computer. All we're doing now is going to wherever we saved it. My file's right here. I just left it on my desktop webinar folder. This is the MLS search I showed you guys earlier, which is right down here. This is exactly what I'm going to import into Genie, and it's got the exact ordering I need it in, so Genie can read the file here. So I'm going to minimize that. You can double click this, or you can just click on it once and go to open, up to you. Now what you'll see is this little green drop down box here. Something very cool we did implement recently is some appraisers use more than one MLS, and sometimes, if that's the case, they need to pull data from both MLSs for one report. If that's the case, what you would do is you would log into both MLSs, create your search. All you do is save both of the files to your computer. You go to Genie, import one, and let's say you have another file you want in there. You just go back to Browse, just an example. Click on the next file, go to Open, and see how you have two green drop-down boxes. These little green drop-down boxes, all it wants you to do is enter the MLS acronym so we can make sure the MLS acronym is right for each MLS. So what you would do, let's say this top one is from Intrace, you would type in Intrace or select it from the drop-down, and maybe this one is from Austin, which probably would never happen because they're way far apart. But the point is you'd put the acronym for both MLSs and then go to Start New Report. And it's going to import both of those MLS files and consolidate them, kick out any duplicates if the addresses are listed in both, that sort of thing. I'm obviously not doing that because I just have one file, so I'm going to click X. And it gets rid of it, and I just want to go with this one. So all I did, once again, is I went to Browse, imported that file. You'll see it right here. All you do is choose Intrace from the drop-down or type it in, and we'll go to Start New Report. Now Genie's going to upload that MLS file, which is indicated by the little circle, and we're going to narrow it down based on this site size, age, GLA. And what you're seeing right here is my subject information. So right here on my report on page 2, all this information I entered in here, most of it anyway, that's going to show up right here. And the reason it does that is we want you to make sure your subject information is accurate. Obviously, if you're starting with garbage, you're going to get garbage results. This does also get sent to buildingcost.net for the total replacement cost. Very imperative that you assign the correct quality rating for the subject. So for example, if it's maybe a Q2 because it's been completely remodeled or whatever, if you put a Q4, then your adjustments are going to be low because you assigned a Q4. I'm going to go with Q2 and I went with C2. Make sure those are accurate. Everything else looks good, so I'm going to go and click Next. If it wasn't, if I needed to change anything, for example, let's say this had one carport, you just change whatever you need to, otherwise leave it as is, and click Next. Alright, so this page is very, very important. This little drop-down box here, you're not going to see this. This is just for me only. But just to explain, it's taking that MLS file, which is interest, and here's Genie's field name. So it's saying, okay, interest, they use the field status. What should you map that to? Map it to status. So that's what we're referring to when we say map your MLS. We just make it line up so it looks right. Okay, so what you see, once again, you're on the comp search tab. The blue tab tells you where you are in the Genie. And this comp search tab, can't say that word apparently, it's going to have a counter towards the top of the page. 59. So let's see what I started with in my MLS. Pretty sure I had over 100. Okay, it looks like my neighborhood search was 190, about 189 because Excel starts at row 2, I think, but there's over 180 comps in here. I definitely didn't want all of those in my 1004, so that's why I narrowed it down by age, site, the parameters I showed you earlier. And this is how many comps met those parameters after I narrowed it. So I have 45 sold here, 9 active, 5 pending. This right here is going to make up my 1004 MC. So that's why you want to narrow it. Once you get to this tab here, if you feel like there's still too many here, all you do is go back to Input, widen up those parameters, you'll come back to this tab, and then you can adjust to 1004 MC based on how you narrow it. Yes, somebody asked if Appraiser Genie automatically deletes any duplicate MLS listings. Yes, we do. So if you go into your MLS and it's a sold, active, pending, it should only keep the most recent, I believe. And I know if you import more than one MLS file at a time, we also delete the duplicates as well. Okay, so a couple important things to note on this page. The 45 sold you see here, that's going to make up the regression analysis. So you have 45 solds. Now 45 solds is not a large data set. I'm sure you all know regression needs quite a bit of solds to be accurate. But if we are able to run regression, we will run it for you. And we will give you the breakdown and the adjustments. And then of course it's up to you whether or not you utilize them. We also use these 45 solds here for the matched pair analysis. So keep in mind you may or may not see matched pair analysis because it's only one difference in amenity subject to comp, and that sometimes can be hard to come by. But if there are any matched pairs to be derived, that will be out of the 45 you see here. So once again, The 45 solds we'll run regression analysis off of and matched pair analysis. And for extraction and allocation adjustments, we simply use the subject and whatever comps you choose for the report. So that's important to know. We don't use the entire 59 you see here for extraction and allocation, only the subject and the comps you choose for the report. And with total, you can choose up to 15. So it's up to you. You can grab at least 3 sold, but up to 15 in total. Now what you're going to want to do on this page is this is where you select the comps for the report. But before you do that, you're going to notice there's a bunch of column headers straight across the page here. If I grab this horizontal bar and go over, you're going to see all of this is listed for every comp. Now earlier in the defaults page, I told you guys there's a column sort order. You can reorder these column headers here in the order you want to see them displayed, rather than dragging this horizontal bar across back and forth trying to find what you're looking for. So I'm going to go all the way over. And this is how I had it set my defaults. I wanted site here, age here, GLA here, year built, sales price, subdivision, etc. So it's so much easier when I just set these in the defaults and I can immediately see what I'm looking for when I want to pick the comps for the report. Next you have sold, which is, or S, excuse me, which is a sold. If you scroll down, any actives on this page will be under solds, which are here. So here's my actives, and any pendings will be below that. And one last thing to note is we do put this in order for you, the comps starting at the top going down. So this would be top going down. We start with closest proximity to your subject, followed by most recently sold and least adjusted. Now distance is completely dependent upon whether or not we can actually pull the longitude and latitude for the address. If the realtors don't enter the address incorrectly, or we can't verify it with the postal service, whatever the case is, that may not be a true reflection, because this can land at the top if we can't pull the distance, but maybe it is the most recently sold, least adjusted, etc. But there is a distance header. So if distance is important to you, you can drag distance all the way over here in the defaults and it will show you the distance. And if there's a 0 here, it just means we couldn't pull it. So let's go over and see, because I'm pretty sure one of these we didn't have it for. Distance. So you'll notice this top one is a 0. It either would be my subject. If your subject's in the MLS search, then it could just literally be the subject, or we couldn't pull it. But you'll see the next one is 0.1, which is miles. So 0.1 miles from the subject, and then it goes straight down. Now I don't generally care for distance. I don't think that's necessarily something that's important to me. Of course you want it close to the subject, but there are other factors I care for more, like site, age, GLA, etc. And you can actually further reorder this. Maybe you want to order this entire list by lowest GLA to highest. You can click on GLA, it'll load. And you're going to notice it looks like it's going smallest to highest, and then you can click again. And it looks like it's going to go largest to smallest. You can do that with anything on this field. Let's say you want subdivision. Maybe you want to group by subdivision, and it's easier for you to find them. You can click on sub, and it's going to put them alphabetically grouped with whatever the subdivision is. So that's a pretty cool feature. You could do that with any field. And if you do that, you're going to get rid of the ordering we had it in. So if you do that and you decide, no, I want to use their ordering, just click on this Reset Sort Order button, and it's going to put that Concord right back towards the top like it was originally in. So your next step is you're going to want to go through here. If any of them made it to this point and they're an outlier, somehow they made it through the narrowing, you can get rid of them here so they don't affect your analysis, 1004, any of that. For example, if this right here looks like it's a bit low, 89,000, you can click on it. Maybe you want to get rid of this one too, only 75. You just select the addresses you do not want, click on Delete Selected Comps, ask you if you want to remove them. You're going to click on Yes, and it's going to completely get rid of them for you. So those two comps are no longer in here, so they can't affect any of my analysis or cause it to be incorrect. That's a really cool tool to use, because it totally depends on the MLS how you narrow it in Genie, that sort of thing. So typically you don't see many here, but you can. So just look through here. What you're going to want to do next is you're just going to want to go through here and select the comps you want to use for the report. So I'm going to go with this Concord. Actually, I'm not. Let me look at one thing. Reorder sales price. And I'm not going to go through all here. If there are any out here, I'm not going to completely remove them all. Of course, active is A, so there's not going to be a sales price. Let me click that one more time. All right. And I'm just going to click a few for example here. Now I have 4 here. As stated, I can go up to 15, but I'm happy with these 4. What I want to do now, since I've grabbed the comps I want to use for the report, so I'm going to click Next. And once you click Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 4 comps I chose, and this is where we verify what MLS says against public in our peer database. If there's a discrepancy, meaning they report different information, you'll have this pop-up box here. We'll give you the address, the field, and we'll tell you what MLS reports, which is 9932 for site, public 9945, and peer, which is 9932. Now the 9932 would indicate they went with the MLS on average, and that's probably me, or maybe another appraiser, but I've ran this quite a few times today. So I can either just go with peer, public, MLS, whichever I feel is more accurate. By all means, if you want to pull up your public records and look at this as you go through, that's fine, but it should return the same information because we use public as well. It's up to you. If you want to just flat out fill out the remaining discrepancies with MLS, public, or peer, you click on these bottom buttons, or you choose the top ones and you just go through each discrepancy one by one, which is what I recommend. So I'm going to go ahead and go with MLS, and you'll notice it took me to the next one if there's a discrepancy. 1382 site 11195 11200, which is not too far different actually. 11195, no, that's okay, pretty close. So I'm going to go with public, and you'll see it's going to take me through each discrepancy. Now if I don't feel like doing this and going through them one by one, I can just click this bottom button here, whichever one I want, and you'll notice it gets rid of that box. So any other fields that had discrepancy, I just chose public for the remainder. Okay, so what you see here is actually the last tab. You have your subject here, 3737 Concord. If you scroll down, all of the information that's already entered here, that comes from you entering it in your report on page 2 or public records if you didn't. For example, age, I have 56 here. Now, if you mistype that or public was wrong, whatever the case is, you can type in the correct value, click outside of the box, and any adjustments that are affected by the change, we will update that in the background. So this page is not set in stone. We understand MLS can be wrong, human error, whatever the case is. You can correct what you need to. You're going to use this horizontal bar to go over. So if we slide that over, here's my first comp, 3961. If I scroll up and down, all the information that's entered here comes from MLS, public, or peer, depending on what I chose. Scroll over. Here's my second comp, 1382 North Willis. And the little pink box is not an error, it's not an alert, it's just telling you we use public records to fill that out. That's all the pink box means. Same thing here, and same thing here. So here's my comp 4, 1701 Minter Lane, and if I scroll down, looks like everything's in here. If you're going through here, scrolling back and forth, if there's anything blank and it's highlighted yellow, you need to fill that out. So for example, this right here, if we look straight across, that's GLA right here. Goes horizontal and look up, this is my address. If that's blank, I need to enter that information in manually. So if public doesn't have it, peer doesn't have it, if we can't retrieve it, it will just be blank, highlighted yellow. You'll just fix that field and just click out of it and it will update that. Same thing with any boxes here. Alright, so the last section here, you have this black adjustment column header. This is your site value, which is what we derived for you based on allocation, extraction, and regression. Here's age, bath, bedroom, GLA. These are the different types of adjustments Genie provides you with. They're up to you whether you want to use them or not. We don't just put the adjustments in the grid. You have to manually go through here and choose the ones you want, or if you don't want to use any of them right now, you can let them export back to the work file and we'll just give you a full breakdown and then you can make your own adjustment later. It's up to you. I'm going to show you how to click on some of them if you'd like to use them. There's a time per month adjustment here, which is 1.92, indicated by time per month. Now, if you don't want to make a time per month adjustment, you just don't click on this. If you click on it, we're going to give you a time per month adjustment in the grid. I don't want this, so I'm just going to skip over it here. But let's say for land value, this is based on allocation, which is 7,300. You have extraction based on 14,003, and regression, which is 14,004. Now these two are similar. Looks like that's a good value. This one's a little bit lower. So what you'll do is if you have a question or you want more information on this, you can look up to the top now. And once you get here, all of these tabs you can actually click on because all the adjustment or the analysis has already been ran at this point. So if you want more information about site or land adjustment, you can click on land. And this full breakdown you see here is actually an example of what's going to be in the report or your work file. So here's your land extraction method breakdown. If there's any math used, we tell you what to do. B minus C minus D minus C, so that would be B. Minus C minus D minus C, and then that will give you F, which you'll see here. So it's not hard to read at all. And if we scroll down to this last section here, I have land allocation method. And this one is a little different. We pull the assessor improvement value and land value for the subject and the comps, which you see in these boxes here. So if any of these fields are blank and you don't have this information, then you may not see an allocation side adjustment on the side-by-side tab. If that's the case, you can come over here, and if anything's 0, you just retrieve the correct value, and it's automatically going to update and give you an allocation adjustment. So as you can see, the land value is super low for these comps here, so that would make sense as far as why the allocation land value is pretty low, and you have your ratios which are divided into the subject. So this will be broken down into a PDF format, and as stated, any kind of math used will tell you what the field is. J divided by I, which is J, and then of course you have I. That's just an example. You definitely want to look at this here if you need an allocation side adjustment. We have to have the land value or improvement value, or it's not going to be accurate, or you will not have one if these are all 0. Normally we don't have that happen. That just depends on your county assessor and whether or not we can pull that from them. Okay, just another example. I'll show you the allocation tab. Okay, if you scroll down, you have this allocation percentage of total value. And what we do is this is the total replacement cost based on the subject area. So we send your subject information and the zip code to buildingcosts.net. They return the total replacement cost, and they also return these amenities as far as allocation. So out of the total replacement cost being 100, earlier in the defaults I advised you we do pull from the Home Builders Association. That percentage was 61.7%, so all we did is we rounded it to 62, and then we figure the average dollar per square foot. This number is based on the comps you choose. So we're going to scroll down, all the way down, find average dollar per square foot from comps, and if you go down and drag this all the way over, you're going to see each comp. So that's comp 1, 2, 3, 4, and we figure the average, which is 75, and we put that number into the percentage. So we took 62% into the 75, and that's why you saw a $46 per square foot allocation adjustment for GLA, and then here's my garage. So this is all broken down for you. Pretty much anything you can need as far as appliances, heating and cooling, flooring, etc., granite, all of this is here for you, and will be put in the work file later when we export. Now we're running a little bit off task, or not necessarily off task, but we're running a little bit over. It does take a little while to set up the default, so I did spend about 30 minutes on that. So we're going to go ahead and click back on this side-by-side. And I'm going to show you guys how to make the adjustments if you want them in the report. So for example, you have this extraction value. Obviously these are two different methods as far as land value. You can click on whichever one you prefer. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this. It's going to load blue. And what you're going to see directly across is the adjustment. So here's my first comp site for 3961 Wilshire. And if there was an adjustment, it would be directly across. Now I did put 30% site size variance in my defaults. So remember, if you put a default as far as not to adjust, it will skip over that 30%. Anything left over, if we are to make an adjustment, Genie will. If not, you'll see a 0. 111950. Let's see if any of them made it. Okay, it looks like they were all pretty within the 30%, so they're all 0. What you can do now is if you want any other adjustments, let's say you want to age, this is 1,100 per year. So we'll click on that. It's going to load blue. And let's see. I believe I put 5 years for my age variance, so that's within 5 years. It should. Actually, I'm not sure if I kept that or not. I might not have since I didn't click the save. I'm not sure, but regardless, that should make a $1,100 per year difference. And if that applies, you'll see that straight across like you see here. It looks like it adjusted for those. Awesome. Here's my last comp's age. Look up 1701, and here's my adjustment. So we'll go back over. And I'll do a couple more. I have GLA. There's $46 per square foot, 41 or 6. And as you see, regression can be all over the place since we have less than 50 solds. I'm going to go and click on the allocation GLA. And once again, if there's an adjustment to be made, 1468 from 1687, you'll see the adjustment here. Now, the adjustment should, of course, go negative or positive, depending on older or newer. And it looks like it's all turning them, I think, positive. I will look into that. No, there's a negative one here. Okay. Some of them should, as you know, be negative or positive, depending. Now, there are a few more adjustments down here. This depends on if you want to use them. You have your garage attached. This is your $2,900 per garage space. And that's for carport, and that's your match pair adjustment right there, which will produce if there's one difference in amenity. Now, some of these, they will not actually apply in the grid. So, for example, if you click on fence or covered patio, we don't actually put these adjustments in the grid. Rather, you'll have a PDF labeled allocation, and we will tell you what the adjustments are, all the breakdown, but we don't put them in the grid. And the reason being is most MLSs do not indicate if the comp actually has a covered patio, uncovered, whatever the case is. Fence, same way. So these, you might as well not click on patio or fence. It won't do anything. Fireplace is here. You'll notice I have fireplace in blank row 1 and then pull blank row 3. So here's my fireplace adjustment, and here's my fireplace counts, and that's what I mean when I say it will line up perfectly if you put in blank row 1 or blank row 3 down here. Now those are the only adjustments I want. And a couple of other things. I'm going to scroll back up. Now you're going to see a little realtor button in red or a tax button in blue on the comps. If you click on realtor, this will populate. This totally depends on the MLS, whether they give us the list agent, sell agent information, or remarks. If they do, that's displayed here purely as a reference. Same thing with tax. If we can pull the tax info, you'll see that here. Alright, so once we've clicked on any adjustments we want in the grid, we're going to click on Export to Report. You'll have this little screen, let this load, so you don't need to touch anything at this point, just let it sit here. Same thing with this load screen, just let that sit there as well. And in a moment, you're going to have a little data wizard box, as you see here, that populates automatically, and this is the total box. So what you're generally going to do is merge into a currently open report, of course, since we had the report open, and that's what we started with. You're going to want to replace the data in my open report with my imported data. And if you have a sketch, check that. If you don't, deselect it and just click import. I've never seen total erase the sketch if you accidentally forget to click it, but that's a feature you might want to ask total about. Now you're going to see total highlighted in the orange at the bottom. So once you see that highlighted orange, you want to click on it and go to the report. And you'll see everything filled in here. Anything that's partially entered means the MLS gave us the type and the stories, but for that comp, the realtor did not enter the design. They did enter in on some of them, as you see here. This one has it filled out. A few other ones do too. And I believe people have asked me quite a few times recently about traditional needing to be changed to ranch now. I'm not sure, but if the MLS is still putting in traditional when it should be ranch, that's completely dependent on the MLS. So until they fix that on their end or update on their end, it's going to pull in whatever they put in there. Same thing with stories. According to UAD guidelines, you are supposed to put 1.0 now, so if anyone's asking, that is there for a reason. It's been changed to 1.0, 2.0, whatever the case is. You'll notice I have porch, patio, deck, and once again I left that blank in my defaults. I didn't want anything to come over. There wasn't a point, so I just left it blank. And my blank row 2 is blank. So had I put something in there, it would still be there. It didn't affect blank row 2. Okay, now some of this should be filled out. You'll have your cost approach filled out here. You have your 1004MC filled out here, and importantly, this verbiage here. That is a good example of a type of comment we put in the report for you. By no means do you have to use this as stated earlier. You can change this, modify it, but that's exactly a good example of what we put in there for you. And I don't think this one, there we go, comp 4. Okay, making sure that was in there. Now, real quick, this work file tab is very important, especially if you're a total user, because all of those PDFs that we saw in the Genie, they've been converted. All the tabs, they've been converted to a PDF here. So if you click on regression or double click on it, you're going to have a PDF of the comps in the data set that was used for regression analysis. Now, if this doesn't make sense to you, join the club. Doesn't really make sense to me either. I know somewhat about it. I know the p-value you're looking at, it's like a 0.05. If it's within that range, then it produces a decent adjustment. Outside of that, it will tell you everything you need to know if you understand regression. Even if you don't, you can say, you know, hey, I considered regression. It didn't produce any kind of accurate adjustment. Thus, I didn't use it, but you'll still have it broken down here, whether or not you do. Let me minimize this. Reconcile, if you double click on reconcile, you'll have a full breakdown as far as the average, which is going to be your sales comparison approach. The 137, that's what you'll see in the report. And all that is an average of weighted by quantity, net dollars, gross dollars, and the breakdown is right below it. So we don't just give you the actual value. We tell you, okay, what was considered in quantity of adjustments. We consider the comp sales price minus concessions, etc. There are some graphs in there. The graphs depend on your data set. I didn't have a very large one, so some of them can come out really nice like that. It just depends on how much you're working with as far as your narrowed search. And what you can do is, if you like any of these PDFs, you can put them in the report. Let's say you like this extraction. You could click on extraction, and the full breakdown for extraction and any calculations, any values are in here for you. So if I want to put that in a report, I'm just going to go back to forms. And I'm going to go to, I haven't done this one in a while. No, it's in, there we go. Insert into page from PDF. You can title the form, but first we're going to browse to it. So we're going to click browse. And where we're going to go is documents, Appraiser Genie. Go to the year. So 2017, every report that you run in the year 2017 is going to be in this folder. You double click on it, and the address will be in here, and total's a little different, so hang tight. Honestly forgot how to do this one. Maybe a little bit different. There's a much lengthier version of this that I don't really want to go through. So hang tight, guys. I go back and forth through so many different softwares that I kind of forget sometimes how you do each one. Regardless, I'll give you an example. If you wanted that PDF in there, you can just go to open, label whatever the PDF is, and click cancel. So that you can put these PDFs in there if you want to. It's up to you. Or you can just do it another way. I believe you just go down here and you can click through it somehow down here. But that's the gist of it. I wanted to wrap that up kind of within the time frame. I know you guys are running over like 9 minutes, but I will hold a Q&A session. Jim asked about Comp 3 and 4. So give me 1 second. Let me look into that. I didn't click on bath adjustment. So there shouldn't be a bath adjustment here because I didn't click on it. This is for your GLA adjustment. So remember, if you want a bath adjustment, garage, carport, all of those have to be physically clicked on in the Genie or you won't see them here. Now I'm going to unmute everyone. Does anyone have any questions before I let everyone carry on today? Anything I can answer for you guys?
I have a question.
Sure.
If you're doing a purchase and your subject is obviously listed in MLS, would you leave that in your search?
Yeah, and the reason why is there's an alternative method to using the Genie. Let me minimize this and I'll show you real quick. And by the way, once we verified the data transferred to Total, all you do is click on yes, and it's just going to tell you you're good to go, so you close it. But when you install Appraiser Genie with Total, you're going to have a desktop icon. If you click on this desktop icon, you're accessing Genie not going through Total. So the whole idea is if you don't want to have to fill out page 2 on the report like I did, you can rely on your MLS to give that info to us and the public records. So if you have that subject in that MLS search, we'll just pull that subject data from MLS and then we'll just put it in here for you instead of manually typing it in. So it's kind of twofold. You can use Genie one or two ways depending on, I guess, what you want to do.
Okay, because then it'll enter into the listing data on page 1 for the subject if you leave it in, so that makes sense.
It goes both ways, and Total's the only one that works with. We don't have that set up for any other form filling software other than you guys, because your guys works really great with Genie.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Now, if you guys don't have any questions, as stated, you can watch this video at appraisergenie.com later, but definitely take advantage of our customer service. We are open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we do monitor the emails on the weekends, tech support, and like I said, if your MLS isn't set up, all you have to do is give us a call or email us. We'll get you going, and you get 10 free. So even if it takes you a couple of times to learn it, it's on us. You're not paying for anything until you understand the software fully. And if it takes you more than 1 or 2 times and we need to give you 5 or 6 demos, it's completely up to you. That's what we're here for. Lastly, just to wrap it up, anything else I can answer for anyone?
Yes. Does Genie support the 1025 multifamily form?
No. We do pretty much every form but multifamily right now. We do ERC, 1004, general purpose, condo, drive-bys, but not multifamily, no sir.
Okay.
I know we're working on it, but I can't give you a time frame because that would be completely subjective because I honestly don't know.
Okay, what is that number for Jenny? What is that access number for Jenny? Telephone number?
Okay, there's 2. If you want sales or a demo, anything for how to use the Genie, you can call 325-704-2592. And if you have tech support or MLS issues, please call 325-701-9012.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Ron asks, which listing form page will Genie include active listings? There's an additional active listing addendum, and it will, if you click add listings to listing addendum on the input page, if you click the checkbox, it will make that addendum, and it's going to look kind of like this, but it's just going to say listing addendum comp 1 through 3, I think, and it will just show your actives here all in one addendum here rather than being placed in with the solds. That's the whole point of that, is if the lender doesn't want you putting actives in here behind the solds, rather they want their own addendum completely with actives, that's why you check that box. Which, don't ask me the reasoning for that, I have no clue. All right. Well, you guys have been great. Looks like I don't have any other questions. If you have any issues, please call us. I will host another webinar soon. And like I said, we're here to help you guys. We hope this product saves you a lot of time like it has with our current customers. And we appreciate you letting us help you for an hour today. Thank you. Bye-bye.